Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome back. And today we're going to make a video that was supposed to do some time ago when I made my collection videos about like my DS, Game Boy Advance, PSP, and PS Vita, showing the games that I have. I also mentioned that I wanted to show my game soundtrack collection, and that's what we're going to do today. I don't know why it took me so long, because honestly I just forgot to do this. And it's not the fact that, just like my games, I don't have this massive video game soundtrack collection like other YouTubers, but it's not a competition. The important thing is that you enjoy buying and listen to these things just like you enjoy play and buying your games. So for this I only have 20 soundtracks here, which is nothing compared with others. But I'm very happy with almost all of them. There's only one that it's nothing, well, it's not bad actually. It's just different in an interesting way. And it's a mix of genre in here. For example, it's not just RPG, even though naturally being my favorite genre, RPG soundtracks are a bit more prevalent, but there is a bit of everything again. So let's just start it so I can spend a couple of words on each soundtrack. And we're I'm by the way, I'm afraid, since it's morning here, I'm afraid that there's going to be some reflections on the covers, so I hope you can see them clearly. But let's start with this one, the Rockman Rock, one of the compilation that Capcom made for the 25th anniversary of Mega Man some years ago. And this is basically a selection of tracks from various Mega Man games, rearranged in a more rockish, with a more rockish tune. And they're very cool. I actually listen to this quite a lot compared with the others, because also I don't listen to game music all the time. I mean, I like to listen to some tracks here and there, but it's not my main focus musically. But I love to own and listen to this here and there, and this is quite cool. I mean, there are some. The most amazing is without a doubt, I think, the remix of obviously the stage 1 of Dr. Wily stage 1 from Mega Man 2. That is amazing in this. It's amazing already on the NES, and it's amazing on this compilation. Next, it's an interesting one, and it's actually very good. I really enjoy this soundtrack, and that is the Power Stone, fighting game for both arcade and especially the Dreamcast. I think there's also on the PSP like a sort of collection of the two games. And while I enjoy the game, the soundtrack it's a pretty good soundtrack. I really enjoy this, even though I'm not the biggest fighting game fan. I enjoyed Power Stone, and the music is really nice actually. Highly recommend the soundtrack for Power Stone. Now this is the weird one I was talking about, like the one I was almost saying like it's not very good, but it is in its own way, because of the game genre, music has to be used in a different way. Like, it's not like an RPG or I don't know, some other games that you can use like symphonic melodies or something like that. In a survival horror game, with one exception, music is almost secondary, because you have to prioritize, for the most part at least, atmosphere. So you cannot have amazing or energetic soundtrack to them. You have to have something somber or something more tense. It depends on the situation on the game, and it's very well reflected on this soundtrack, which is Dino Crisis 2. I love the Dino Crisis series so much. And it's killing me the fact that Capcom will probably never do a Dino Crisis 4 due to Dino Crisis 3, but they said this is interesting actually, because they said that they would like to do a new Dino Crisis, but they don't know how to do it because 3 fucked up the series very well. And we even had an interview from Shinji Mikami, I don't remember exactly who was the creator, or at least like a director, producer, right? A very important figure in the Resident Evil series. He said that he would love to work on Dino Crisis, so maybe there is a glimmer of hope in the future for the series, but very unlikely, unfortunately, I think. And Dino Crisis 2, it's a pretty good sequel. It's not at all as good as the first one. That game is a survival horror masterpiece to me. It's much more action. You can already from this reflect some progressions that survival horror games took during the years, from more like tank controls and like few enemies, few ammo, and all of that good stuff. It became like almost like a shooter, and that is what Dino Crisis 2 is. You run around the jungle or whatever, shooting dinosaurs, getting points, so you can spend those points buying weapons, armors, ammunition, medicine, all that stuff. I mean, it's a fun game, and it's still good, but it's already quite very different from the first one. But the soundtrack, it's interesting in a way because it's very, since the game it's much more action. Also, it is reflected in the music, which is, I remember a lot of more energetic music. Just as the content was the same before. So, but in general, there is more energetic tunes. There is some electronic music, which is interesting. And it's crazy to think that this CD has 50 tracks. I didn't remember that. That's massive. But it's probably mainly like short ones. But Dino Crisis 2, it's a good game. If you've never played it, give it a shot. Even though it's not as good as the first one, of which, here's the next soundtrack, Dino Crisis. And basically all the things I say for Dino Crisis 2, but one difference. This is a much more atmospheric game than the second one. So there are a lot more somber, more quiet tunes to this game. One of my personal favorites is, well, there is the music from the intro, which is very good, and especially the save room. I don't know why, but apparently all Capcom survival horrors always have amazing save rooms music. Like in Resident Evil, there is the awesome piano theme. In Dino Crisis, there is this little theme which it's fantastic. I love it, with that do 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 do, something like that. I love it. It's really cool. But overall, the music in Dino Crisis is pretty good for a survival horror point of view, and I really love this game. Next, it's the only soundtrack of this series that it's very dear to me. I absolutely love it, and unfortunately I had to remove it from my iPod due to the lack of space, but maybe in the future I will put it back again, because this is always a good some good music if you like more orchestral and stuff like that. And of course I'm talking about Dragon Quest VI. I don't know why I went specifically for 6, which is a fantastic Dragon Quest game. I absolutely love it, but it's not my favorite. If I have to be completely honest, the music is good. I mean, I think it's quite similar overall to other Dragon Quests music, especially some like main themes or something. I mean, it's always awesome to listen to Dragon Quest Overture, or you can say the opening of these Dragon Quest games with the orchestral music. That's great. And I don't know, maybe it's difficult to say, because technically, my favorite Dragon Quest game is Dragon Quest IV, even though I love all of them. I mean, I freaking love Dragon Quest. It's one of my favorite RPG series of all time. And I can easily go for every single soundtrack. But maybe it was, I don't even remember. I bought this a long time ago. Maybe it was just like 6 was less expensive. I don't know, 4 or 5, which both of them are better to me. But in general, I love the Zenithia trilogy really much. I love 8. I love 9. I mean, all of them, the first 3. I mean, Dragon Quest is such a fantastic series, and the music is very good. It's very more, in a way, even the music, it's kind of more old school compared to other more modern RPGs, but that's also part of the charm, I think. Yeah, there's the music of the flying bat. Yes, you also fly around with a bat in Dragon Quest VI. It's I love that game so much. It's fantastic. Interesting, because I bought this soundtrack, but I never played the game. I bought it because it was very cheap, strangely enough. And that it's Seeker of Mana, Seiken Densetsu 2. and the music is fantastic. It's one of the reasons why the game is so famous, other than for most people, I suppose, being a very addicting and fun action RPG. But the music of Secret of Mana is very famous for the right reasons. I mean, on having music like this on the Super Nintendo, wow, it's really good. I recommend this soundtrack. I cannot talk too much about it because, as I said, I never played Secret of Mana, I never had the chance. But the soundtrack is really something that if you are into game music, you have to own Secret of Mana. We're moving into a Falcom game here. And, oh, this is nice, I didn't remember this. I bought this soundtrack almost as a reminder that I want to play this game so bad because I have the feeling that it might become my favorite of the whole series. Ys 4 Dawn of Ys. The reason why I said that is that my favorite Ys game is still at the moment Book 1 and 2. I played it on the Virtual Console, but I really love that game for many reasons. One of those is the fact that I absolutely love the run and bump gameplay of the old Ys games, which Dawn of Ys is one of the last representative of. And I have a feeling that this might be my favorite Ys game if all I was able to play it, damn it, since there is no way for this game other than, I don't know, emulation and stuff like that, ROMs. And I say different times, I'm not into those kind of things. I'm not condemning it, of course. I'm just saying personally, I'm lazy, I'm not that tech savvy, so I don't really know how to use those things. But it's one of the games in general that I want to play the most. It's Ys 4. And the music, considering that this is a TurboGrafx game of anyways of those years, early 90s, it's fantastic. I mean, we're still talking about JDK, of course, so of course it's fantastic. And Ys 4 is really good. I mean, this is a great soundtrack, and every time I listen to this, it's always like one day maybe I'll be able to play Dawn of Ys, and I'm pretty sure that it will become my favorite Ys game because I think it's kind of the pinnacle, you might say, of the run and bump gameplay. Now we're moving into some Final Fantasy, because obviously if you are into collecting video game soundtracks and stuff like that, Final Fantasy, other than having amazing music of course, but it's also one of the easiest and more accessible series to collect for, because there are a billion Final Fantasy CDs. And so far, I have no interest in collecting all Final Fantasy soundtracks, only of my personal favorites. So we're already reducing quite a lot, and we're starting with. It's always between this and another one. Which one is my ultimate favorite Final Fantasy game? And let's start with Final Fantasy IX, my co-favorite game of the series. And I love that game and that music so much that I have two soundtracks for that. We start with the piano collection, and we also have the original soundtrack. So double dipping on Final Fantasy, totally worth it because the music is fantastic. They're kind of not complementary because in here there are certain, and here at the same time, it's not the same music. There are something different from one another. So it's a good combo in order to have more Final Fantasy IX music, which is fantastic. I mean, oh, that game is so good. I mean, easily the best Final Fantasy on the PlayStation, and easily one of the best Final Fantasy ever made. And the music by Yu Uematsu, it's outstanding in Final Fantasy IX. An interesting one that's even more interesting, I heard a lot of being very underrated, kind of overshadowed by what came before and what came after. Of course, I'm talking about Final Fantasy V, and I say it's interesting because everyone I'm talking to, everybody says how much they enjoy this game. This is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, and I'll say I preferred it over 4. which is the favorite for a lot of people, and at least a lot of people say that 4 is better than 5. I disagree. I prefer 4. I prefer 5. 4 it's immediately after. I mean, 4 is fantastic. I'm not saying otherwise. But in terms of music, I still need to get the soundtrack for 4. It's one of those that I want to get in the future to complete like my favorite Final Fantasies soundtracks collection. But the music of 5, it's really good actually. Highly recommend this. Some say that it's not as good, but it kind of sounds like the whole thing with Final Fantasy V. I mean, 4 was a massive success. It's very well loved. So next to it we have 5, which has a much simpler story, but a much better gameplay. And the job system from this game, it's amazing. And the story, it's not that bad actually. I really like Final Fantasy V. It's absolutely amazing. And of course, if you want to collect Final Fantasy music, you have to have this. This is one of the first soundtracks that I bought. It was quite expensive, but it was totally worth it. Of course, I'm talking about the amazing Final Fantasy VI soundtrack, my other co-favorite Final Fantasy game. Where do we even start with this? 3 discs of pure, amazing music. Oh, I forgot about this. Some art. Say hi to Terra. The music in Final Fantasy VI is legendary, to say the least. I mean, from the opening theme that I'll probably... It still gives me sort of goosebumps every time there is that part that you imagine the Magitech armor walking through the snow. I mean, that is still chilling. No pun intended. But to others like the Celeste theme, which is the same with the opera, and there are a lot of sort of like different versions of certain music in this. I mean, this is an amazing soundtrack. If you are slightly interested in gaming music, this is a no-brainer. This is one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. It might be quite pricey. Maybe, it depends, but when I bought it, it was not too much because games and game-related item prices didn't explode yet. So, I don't know now, but if you're interested in gaming music, this is an absolute must because it's fantastic. Fantastic. Moving on from Final Fantasy, this is another series of which I want to collect more, especially in terms of music, because music is one of the things that made me love this series so much. I'm talking about Wild Arms. The soundtrack of Wild Arms is fantastic. It's really good, especially because it has that awesome Wild West music that makes it so interesting. That's one of the reasons why Wild Arms is one of my favorite RPG series, due to the fact it's this steampunk Wild West setting, and I always loved Western movies. If you put that into an RPG, that is almost a wet dream for me. Especially when I was younger, when I played the first Wild Arms on the PlayStation, I fell in love with it instantly. And the music has a big role into that because A, it's really good. I mean, the music in Wild Arms is really good, and B, it has this Western atmosphere that I absolutely love. I mean, from the opening scene music, which is still one of the greatest opening of all time, to like the world map, the battle music, and there's plenty of great music. This is a really rich CD. There are 2 of them. There's how many? Almost 80 tracks into this, and they're all really good. So highly recommend Wild Arms. Moving on, this is something that's one of my favorite items in my game soundtrack collection. I am so happy to have this, but it's still kind of incomplete. And it's also very cool to show it because it's an amazing item per se. And the music, it's awesome, since the music of this series is always being phenomenal. Parasite Eve. So, let me show this The box is awesome per se, but if you remove the box, you have Parasite Eve 1. Look at this awesome cover between Aya and Melissa, I think was the name of the opera singers. So this is really cool already. Then if you remove the CDs, you have more amazing arts of Aya Brea, which is really sorry about that, which is really cool. And the music of Parasite Eve 1 is phenomenal. It's also very interesting because there's a lot of opera singing and stuff like that, which is quite kind of unusual, I think, in video games. And then of course you have the soundtrack of the awesome Parasite Eve 2. So the cover, Aya Brea, remove the CDs, more awesome arts, and I love this one in particular, this Christmassy stuff. There's also the cool reference to Final Fantasy, and honestly I don't know the rest, maybe it's random stuff, but I love the cactus in here, I hope you can see it. I love this art inside the discs. It's very, very cool. It's really cool, and the music from Parasite Eve is phenomenal. I still need, that's the ones, and also like finally there's this little booklet with some more art. I mean, really cool collector items. I mean, if you're in, this is what I was saying, like the exception to survival horror not having, not good but not memorable maybe, I don't even know what's the correct word, but Parasite Eve is an exception because it's not your regular survival horror game. It's this unbelievably good at hybrids between a survival horror and an RPG. That's why the series is so good, and the music reflects this. It's awesome. And the fact I was saying it's incomplete is the fact that I still absolutely want the soundtrack of Third Birthday, because one of the many things that all the haters of that game neglect to say is the fact that the music in that game is very good because it's Parasite Eve music. So that's one that I definitely want to get in the future. Now we're moving into really good stuff. It's not that these are not good, they're amazing, but we're getting into some really good stuff here. These are items that I'm really happy to own. Let's go with this. This soundtrack, it's really special to me because it's from one of my favorite games of all time, and I probably break the 100 hours mark playing this game. Legend of Dragoon. Yeah, I don't know why it's like this. You can see Rose in all its awesomeness. The music in Legend of Dragoon is amazing, like the rest of the game. I mean, all the tracks are fantastic. I still listen to this basically every day, at least one or two tracks. I don't know, like the opening song, which is really good, the theme of let me think, well, the overworld maps are really nice. I always love them, especially the second one, the Tibaroa one. I love that. It's one of my favorite war map theme ever. Like the theme of the Twilight of Rose, the theme of Shanna. There's so many amazing music into this, and I'm still praying all the gods in this universe that someday we might get a sequel to Legend of Dragoon. This game is so good. I can talk for hours about this game, and the soundtrack is also so amazing. It's the perfect companion to me, perfect RPG. I love Legend of Dragoon, and the music, it's no exception. It's also part of the reason why I love it so much. And now we're moving to one of my favorite, or one of the soundtracks that I think it's one of my favorite among all these that I own. It's from a series which have some of the best music of its generation, and still one of the greatest music yet. Grandia. Where do we even start with the music of Grandia? The first Grandia, I still need to get the music of Grandia 2, which is phenomenal, but the first Grandia, it's really special to me. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, and the music in this game, Ah, where do we even start? It's so good. It has some of the best battle theme musics ever made, especially the third one is my favorite. But all the music, unfortunately, I desperately want to get the like complete collection. So there's a box set of Grandia One music, which has basically everything from that game, but it's so expensive to get. That's the thing. That's one of the expensive stuff that I want, because like one of the things that I absolutely love, like very noisy motorcycle. One of the things that I really love from that game, among many others, of course, but it's unfortunately missing here, and it's a really small part in the game. It's when Justin and Sue are forced to clean the deck of the ship at the beginning of the game. Basically, the deck's wobbling music, but it's so energetic, so cheerful that I love that music for some reason. But I mean, the music of Grandia by Noriyuki, I think, yeah, Noriyuki Iwadare. Sorry for my Japanese. It's simply amazing, and like Grandia 2, in terms of music, it's also an absolute must. But also the first Grandia, it's fantastic. This is one of the best soundtracks that I own, I think, and again, one of the first that I bought, because Grandia will always have a special place in my heart. It's one of my favorite games ever. Talking about awesome music and a very criminally forgotten series. I don't understand why Sega. Yeah, we're talking about fucking Sega. I don't know why Sega is doing nothing with it, because I think it's one of my two favorite series from them. Maybe you have guessed what I'm talking about. But the music from this game, like when I listened, this is one of the sounds I listen to the most, other than like Grandia and General Dragoon, and it's not an RPG. I spent like for a non-RPG music, this is definitely my number one so far. Panzer Dragoon Orta. I sincerely hope you have played this game, because this game is the absolute best of what the original Xbox has to offer. I mean, Halo, it's good. I love Halo. That's the reason why I bought the Xbox. But then, almost randomly, I bought Orta, and I say, oh my god, what a game! I mean, I knew the Panzer Dragoon series from back in the days, but I never played it because I never owned a Sega system back then. I especially never owned the Sega Saturn. And all of a sudden, playing this rail shooter, for Xbox standard, it has amazing graphics, and the music, it's mind fucking blowing. That's how good this music is. I mean, most of them, there's also like some bonus tracks which are really cool from previous Panzer Dragoon games. There's like the main title from Panzer Dragoon 1, the main theme of Panzer Dragoon 2, which is really cool, and especially there is an amazing music from Panzer Dragoon Saga into this. This is also a reason to own this soundtrack, because those three are phenomenal. But, I mean, most of the music from this game, it's unbelievably good, and if you haven't played it, you need to play it. And do this favor to yourself. Panzer Dragoon, it's one of the greatest series ever made, I think. And one of the best things Sega ever made, together with the series we're going to talk next. But you may guess, knowing me, what I'm talking about. But I'm almost tempted to say that I prefer Panzer Dragoon over that, even though it's not RPG, but whatever. And the music of this, it's so good. I mean, it's very, like, there are this tribal rhythm, but also very, it's weird to describe, but it's weird at the same time, but really epic at the other. I mean, I know it's not making very much sense, but it's also kind of difficult to describe the music of Panzer Dragoon because it's a mix of various things. But my favorite tracks in here is number 8, which is called Gigantic Fleet, and that it's one that I listen to that a lot. I mean, those drums, I'm just saying that, but absolutely one of my favorite soundtrack here from a game that it is among my favorites of all time. Panzer Dragoon Orta. They're one of the reasons to own the original Xbox together with Halo and Knights of the Old Republic. With those 4 games, you can buy those and the Xbox and you're set. The rest of the Xbox, not necessary. Moving on, we're still on to Sega. And I was mentioning like this other series, it's my co-favorite together with Panzer Dragoon. You might guess it, of course I'm talking about Phantasy Star. And recently I've bought this amazing collection, which is very interesting actually, because it's not music directly from the games, it's something a bit different. And that is the Phantasy Star 25th anniversary, the Sympathy, not Symphony apparently, 2013 live memorial album. So this is all Phantasy Star music live from an actual orchestra, and it's really good actually. It's awesome. But it's also like, as I said, it's not directly from the game. Unfortunately, most of the music is from the Phantasy Star Online series, which I don't really care about, but it's still good music. The thing is, like I say, disc 1 it's much better than disc 2, because in disc 2 for the most part is singing by like Japanese singers, and honestly, while being okay, it's nothing special. While the first disc is most game music, and it's really cool by an actual orchestra. So this is a really neat item. Like if you like Phantasy Star, I love the stylized meow here. Really cool stuff. Love Phantasy Star. Like really like it. I wish Sega will go back to make turn-based Phantasy Star again. Stop with this online nonsense. But that's just me. My final 3 CDs, so we're almost done, and they're all Falcom related because, of course, if you like game music, you have to have Falcom and JDK music. Let's start with the amazing, unbelievable Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky, first chapter. Eventually I want to get the second chapter because the music in that it's really good, even though for the most part it's quite similar to first chapter, so we'll see. Only if it's quite cheap or less cheaper. Interesting thing about this CD, when I bought my PSP, my idea was to get that together with the special edition of Trails in the Sky, because this game is the reason why I bought my PSP. And the special edition has the game, the soundtrack, and other items, but I really wanted the game and the soundtrack mainly. And the box, of course. I love PSP special edition. It's the only system for which I'm willing to buy special edition, but at this point, for the most part, they're really expensive. They're showing amazing art of characters in the CD. I love Trails in the Sky. So when I saw that, I think the special edition was around like 80 to 85 pounds. I said no, thank you. So I checked to the items individually. So basically for much less than that, I bought the PSP, the game Trails in the Sky, and this soundtrack here for at least, I think it was in total around 50 pounds. So I was able to buy another game together with those. And I think I bought E7. So one of the reasons that made me buy the PSP, I'm very happy for that. I mean, thank God I played Trails in the Sky because it's fantastic, and the music, it's so good. I mean, do I even need to talk about the music in Trails in the Sky? It's really good. Of course, this is just a selection, it's not everything, but there's plenty of fantastic music in here. Highly recommended. I mean, the Legend of Heroes, contrary to Ys, it's quite different, but in also a very good way, because Ys is more rock energetic than Legend of Heroes in terms of music. Legend of Heroes is more symphonic, it's more somber for some ways, and because they're also kind of different games. And speaking of Legend of Heroes, I couldn't not buying this soundtrack after I played the game, because I enjoyed it so much, and the music is also one of the reasons why I liked it so much. And of course, it's the soundtrack of Legend of Heroes 4: A Tear of Vermilion. I will never be tired of telling you how much I love this game and how good this game is. To me, Tear of Vermilion has nothing less than Trails in the Sky, including the music department. The only department in which Chess in the Sky is superior to me. Its combat system, because it's a more modern game. Theory of Million is much older, so it's. And I also heard that the import, like the version that was released in Europe and North America, has a different combat system compared to the one in the original Japanese version, which is interesting because I heard that the original Legend of Heroes games like Moonlight Witch, Theory of a Million, Song of the Ocean, their combat system it's more like Chess in the Sky, which in here are a bit different, are more like a much simplified version of that, which is still fine. I mean, I don't mind. The combat system in the Gaga games is good, but in Legend of Heroes it's better in Chess in the Sky. But back to the music. This is amazing. There are some unbelievable good music into this. That's why I say that it's nothing less than Chess in the Sky, especially because I know this is not the same music that you will hear on the PSP version of Theory of a Million. I think this is like the PC/PS1 version or something like that. This is the kind of older music, and it's awesome. It's much better in a way than the PSP version. I would like to have that as well, but I don't think there is a soundtrack specifically for that. But again, a lot of music, a lot of fantastic music. Legend of Theory of a Million has one of my favorite battle music of all time with A Hill to Die On, I think it's called. And in here they put the old, much rockish version that is fantastic. I love that. But the music in Theory of a Million is really, really good. There you go. And it's very noisy because I have to keep my window open since it's really hot here in London. That sucks because I was almost done. I was hoping to avoid the siren, but the last disc here, it's the latest one that I bought, and I'm very, very happy that I did because this music is phenomenal. Let's go back to Ys with Memories of Celceta. And the music of this game is fantastic. It's not my favorite Ys soundtrack, and it's interesting that I bought this one because the music in this it's very similar to Dawn of Ys, since as you know they're all part of the Ys 4 saga, even though they're told in different ways. They're a bit different from each other, and there's still Mask of the Sun missing, for example, in my Ys 4 soundtrack. That could be an interesting way to have all the Ys 4 music. Celceta has more updated music in a way. It's very different from Dawn of Ys. There are some original music which is fantastic, but like always, Ys music it's probably my favorite JDK music, even more than Legend of Heroes maybe, just because it's a bit more rock in spirit, and maybe since I love rock and roll and stuff like that, it's maybe has my preference, but it's just a matter of details here. I mean, but I say it's not my favorite Ys soundtrack because I think nothing will ever top Oath in Felghana, and I still need to get that soundtrack. And I think that Ys 7 maybe the music is a bit better, but again, details, because Celceta it's really good. I'm not saying anything against that. So we made it. This is all the soundtrack I have here. Not that much, but a bit of everything, as you can see. And I hope you find it interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. So I'll see you next time. Like always, guys, thanks for watching and take care.